Hello again, fourth grade. Sorry, I had a nose itch right when I pushed record. So for you, it is Friday, March 20th. And for me, it's just about 5 minutes after I made that last video. So that's why I'm in the same clothes and I'm still in my classroom. So I hope yesterday went well with your first day of our non-traditional instruction days. And I hope your pre-writing with your characters and your character traits went well. So please continue to send me any questions if you have them. So today you are going to do the last two graphic organizers that were sent home in your take-home packet that your parents picked up earlier this week. And they are the My Setting graphic organizer and the Problem and Solution graphic organizer. So just like your character traits one, I do want you to trim it so it's a little smaller. Just trimming the squiggly line off, I think would be fine. And glue them into the next page of your 5-subject notebook in the extra section, just so you have everything right there together. I did want to tell you just before we talk about your next graphic organizers, I forgot to tell you this in the last video. I want you to start thinking about what kind of story you want to write. So we're using Wonder as our example, just since we've all read it, we're all familiar with it. But Wonder is a realistic fiction story. And so it's about a made-up person, about made-up characters, but it could actually happen. But you don't have to write a realistic fiction book. If you would rather write a mystery or a fantasy or a fairy tale, or if you really like mythology, or if you are, if you like the Civil War time period and you want it to be about that, that's fine. Remember, the only requirements you have for me are your 3 characters at least. And you have an act of major kindness in your story. So just keep that in mind. So don't think that you have to make your story look like Wonder, because you don't. So I hope that was clear. If you have a question about that, let me know. So yeah, start planning that part of your story out also. So today you're going to be doing those 2 graphic organizers I just showed you. I'm going to start with the My Setting graphic organizer. You can start with the other one, that's fine. So I do want you to start thinking about when and where your story is going to take place. If we think about Wonder, it took place at a lot of different places, and it took place over the course of an entire school year. Depending on your story, you might have just one setting. If it all takes place at one place during the same time of day, that's fine. So don't feel like you have to fill in all of these lines right here. You might fill in only a few. You might have to add more. That's fine. So it just depends on what your story is and what your setting is. So don't forget, setting is when it takes place and where it takes place. So make sure you think about both aspects of your story setting. So the other graphic organizer is Problem and Solution. So think about the major problem that your main character is going to have. Your problem should focus on your main character. Your main character should be involved in the problem somehow. But you might have other little problems along the way. If you think about Wonder, every character had their own problem, but the whole problem of the entire book, let's think about that. So the problem of Wonder, what do you think it would be? Maybe you all are raising your hand right now. I wish you all were right now. I can't see you. So what do you think the big problem of Wonder is? You know, Augie's our main character. So like I said, the problem should be focused on the main character. So what do you think it is? Give yourself some time to think. So I think the problem is, and let's see if you're right or not, I think the problem of Wonder is that Augie has this facial deformity that keeps him from having a normal life. You know, he gets picked on, he gets teased when he's at school. So I think him starting middle school but also having this facial deformity, which keeps him from, like I said, having that normal life. I think that's the big problem within the story. It's all about him, but characters are along the way are involved in that problem in a good way or a bad way. Okay. So the solution of that problem, so think about the solution. How is your problem going to be solved? I do want you to have a solution to your problem. So a lot of times stories end with a cliffhanger or a to be continued type of way. I don't want your stories to end that way because I want your reader to know how the problem is solved. We know how Augie's problem was solved. He, grew a lot throughout the whole course of the book. He, I don't want to say how it ends because I know some of you are still reading the book, so I don't want to spoil anything for you. But by the end of the book, we really get a good idea of how he has changed and if that problem has been solved or not. So start to think about what's going to be the problem in your story. Every single story has to have a problem. So I don't want you to come to me and say, Mrs. Smith, I don't have a problem in my story. Every story does. If you say it doesn't, then you're not really telling a story. You're pretty much just writing a journal prompt or a little paragraph. So remember, this is a story that your reader should know by reading what the problem is. And by the end, they should know what the solution is as well. Okay, so start thinking about that. So just like yesterday, I want you to dedicate 20 minutes to these two graphic organizers. You can spend 10 minutes on one, 10 minutes on the other. You can spend 5 minutes on one, 15 on the other. It doesn't really matter to me, but 20 minutes, make sure you're in your own area. Make sure you are in a nice quiet place where you can concentrate. That way you can get some good thoughts going. If you feel like you are finished with these two graphic organizers today before your 20 minutes is over, look back to what you wrote yesterday about your characters and see if you want to change anything, add anything, because nothing needs to be final. So I don't want you to think that during this brainstorming and pre-writing process that you're making all your decisions. You are getting started, but you can certainly change things. So that's the cool thing about the brainstorming process is these are just ideas and ideas can change. But once we start writing our story next week, you should have a good finalized plan of what will happen in your story. Okay, so 20 minutes today for those two graphic organizers. Let me know if you have questions. Let me know if I could explain something a little bit better. And happy writing. And I hope you all are doing well. And I will see you all soon.